Beneath the bustling streets of Seattle lies a hidden treasure, shrouded in mystery and forgotten by time. The Forgotten Underground City, as it has come to be known, is an enigmatic labyrinth of tunnels and chambers that once thrived with life. Constructed during the late 19th century, this subterranean network served as Seattle's first downtown streets. Join Viewcation as we look inside the Seattle Underground, a lost city beneath the city. From humble beginnings, early Seattle and the Great Fire. Today, Seattle is known for towering skyscrapers, bustling tech industries, and damp climate, but its origins were more humble. Back in the 1850s, when it was founded, it was a rough and tumble frontier town focused on logging the dense forests of the Puget Sound area. Seattle's first developers picked the location for potential as a port. Elliott Bay provided a deep harbor perfect for maritime trade. But beyond the waters of the bay, Seattle had some notable drawbacks. It was built on uneven, densely wooded hills surrounding muddy tidal flats. There were no roads, just winding trails choked with underbrush and cliffs carved by streams. The soggy soil was saturated by near-constant rainfall. As settler Ezra Meeker described, the only flat surfaces were the bad-smelling tide flats. Nonetheless, pioneers like Arthur Denny and Doc Maynard were determined to build a city on this unlikely landscape. They profited by clear-cutting the giant Douglas firs and red cedars that blanketed the hills and selling the valuable lumber to cities like San Francisco. Ships would arrive full of ballast like rocks or dirt and leave full of timber. With so much rainfall and marshy ground, Seattle had issues with flooding and standing water. Streets were hastily constructed from wooden planks laid across muddy ruts. These would frequently sink into bogs so deep they could swallow people and animals. The proximity to sea level also caused sewage problems. Toilets would back up and overflow when high tides pressed seawater back up the pipes. The ramshackle assemblage of wooden buildings, muddy lanes, and makeshift sewage ultimately led to disaster. On June 6, 1889, a young carpenter's apprentice accidentally started a glue fire that exploded into the Great Seattle Fire. Whipped by high winds, the flames easily jumped from one wood building to the next, while lack of water pressure made firefighting nearly impossible. In just one day, some 25 blocks of downtown businesses were reduced to smoldering rubble. The devastated city needed a fresh start, and this opportunity to start over yielded an unexpected relic beneath its streets, the Seattle Underground. The Underground Network forms. The Great Seattle Fire left over 100 acres of downtown in ashes, but city leaders saw a silver lining, a chance to remake Seattle as a modern metropolis. They mandated that all new construction must use stone or brick to be fireproof. And to deal with the long-standing flooding and sewage issues, they launched an ambitious street regrading project. The plan was to raise the entire business district by 1 or 2 stories well above sea level. Workers built tall retaining walls made of granite along the edges of old streets. The space between the walls was backfilled with dirt and gravel and paved over to create a higher street level about 10 to 30 feet above the original. But many building owners, eager to reopen after the fire, reconstructed on the original ground floor site, not realizing this would soon become a basement. Sidewalk vaults with glass prisms were installed to bridge the gap between the elevated streets and the building entrances. Wooden ladders or staircases descended from the sidewalk to the underground storefronts, allowing continued access. So as the regrading work progressed for more than a decade, a network of subterranean spaces emerged. Where the old sidewalks still bordered buildings at the original street level, hollow corridors were created beneath the new streets. Stone archways built into the retaining walls opened into these tunnels. In some places, the gap reached 35 feet high. Strolling through the buried passages today is like stepping back in time. Gilded storefront signs for long-gone businesses like the Butterick Pattern Company line the stone walls. Ornate entryways lead into open basements that once held banks and saloons. Skylights in the sidewalk above filter hazy, natural light onto the cobblestones underfoot. Many architectural flourishes remain intact. There are iron-railed light wells descending into the depths between buildings. Intricately tiled floors decorate underground lavatories and vaulted shop entryways. In a few areas, sections of wood-planked roadways, remnants of Seattle's early muddy streets, are still visible beneath the later concrete paving. Underground falls into disrepute. Out of sight and out of mind, these lightless spaces became a shadowy refuge for many of Seattle's marginalized citizens. When winter rain drenched the muddy streets, the homeless sought shelter in the dry tunnels of the underground. Opium dens run by Chinese immigrants did a bustling business of pipe dreams concealed in basement darkness. Rowdy saloons and gambling halls that had been shut down for ignoring liquor laws or licensing fees reopened illegally. According to soured milk found in old bottles, some basements even became impromptu stables for those who couldn't afford more legitimate lodgings for their horses. A few underground spaces were put to legitimate use. Basements became warehouse storage areas or hosted steam baths and barbershops. But much underground activity catered to vice and dissipation between the glossy new face of the city overhead. This illicit activity reached its peak in the rowdy days after the Klondike Gold Rush transformed Seattle into a boom town, swollen with adventurers and those who wished to relieve them of their fortunes. An 1897 police census estimated over 1,000 prostitutes were operating in the city at that time. However, as Seattle prepared to host the Alaska-Yukon Pacific Exposition in 1909, city leaders grew concerned with cleaning up the city's reputation. In 1907, Seattle condemned the underground passages as unsafe and unhealthy. Police ejected the homeless and those squatting rent-free in unfinished basements. Opium dens and makeshift stables were raided and shut down. Access tunnels were filled with debris or sealed off with brick walls. Rediscovering a lost city. By the 1950s, the legend of Seattle's buried past had faded into improbable lore. Most citizens had forgotten that hidden basements and corridors lay underground. But local history enthusiast Bill Speedell became fascinated with the whispers of an underground Seattle. When newspaper columns mentioned the rumors and asked about tours, hundreds of curious letters poured in. Speedell researched Seattle's early days and in 1965 gave the first underground tour. Donning an antique silk hat, he led wide-eyed visitors down stone stairwells into dusty basements littered with relics. His entertaining tales brought this hidden world vividly back to life. For history and architecture buffs, glimpsing Seattle's early origins beneath the modern streets is a fascinating experience. But even visitors with only a casual interest will enjoy an entertaining hour dipping into the city's scandalous and quirky past lives. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know about Seattle's underground? Let us know in the comments section below.